Hi, welcome back to Open Hand Farm. Today I'm starting out in my workroom, but I'm going to end up in my office because I'm making signs with my Silhouette machine. I had a subscriber ask me to do this because she's trying to decide if she wants one. So I'm going to see if I can show her something fairly simple that she can do. I have boards here. This is just a piece of raw wood. This piece of wood is an old shelf out of a pantry. As you can see on this edge, it's rounded, and that doesn't bother me. I'm just going to put that at the top, and it is painted. So what I did with it is the side I'm going to use, I sanded it down and sanded the edges like I did the other one to kind of round them up a little bit and take some of the paint off. So now what I want to do before I use them as signs is I want to stain them. I want that raw wood to have some color to it. So I'm going to use this Folk Art Home Deco wax. If you watched my video on turning a bench into a table, I used it on that. Today I'm just going to kind of pour it on my rag and use it like that. Now, because this board is a cream color already, it is going to make that cream color turn a little bit brownish. So if you don't want it as dark, you can definitely water it down more, but I'm going to go ahead and go for it, and then I'm going to wipe it off, and that way you can see the difference here. But the raw wood now has a stain to it, and if I wanted to, I could go back in over this board and touch it up with a dry brush of white or cream colored paint, but I think I'm going to like this, so I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to go upstairs and use the Silhouette and prepare our design for them. I am going to tape off the area that I want to have words. I think what I would like to do on this one is I want to have from this corner to this corner a little piece of hanging twine with ribbon tied to it so that it has a little extra dimension to it. I will tape off more up here than I do on the sides because I want to leave extra there. I'm just going to use this wide masking tape. This gives me a visual so that I know for sure where I want things. I'm going to go down a little bit further. I'm going to measure and see if I'm even. This will be the area that I can put my words in. Now I'm going to measure the area that I have, and I'm going to say 5 inches by 13.5. I did a Bible study, and the lady that wrote the Bible study said that her grandmother blessed anybody that came to her house as they were going out the door. And I love that idea, but usually I'm too rattled or just trying to, help people get all their stuff gathered up and out the door that I don't even think about it. So I'm going to put a blessing on here and hang it by my front door so that even if I don't remember it, maybe they'll read it and see it and feel blessed as they leave. What I'm going to put on is Numbers 6:24 through 26. It says, "The Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show his favor and give you his peace." So when I open Silhouette, this is what comes up. This is called Silhouette Studio. This is a blank canvas that I can start working on. What I need to do is type in what it is I want my cutout to say. So I'm going to go down to the A over here, which means text. So now I'm just going to start typing. The second line of each section of this indents. So I'm just going to count over and indent that way. I'll do 5. And I realized that that went over there, and that's okay. We're going to work on that. We have it all typed in there, and I'm going to decrease the size of this so that we can see all of it in one spot. So I'm going to go up here to this magnifying glass with the minus on it and just click on it. Now I know that I need more room side to side. Now I don't have to worry about my size that is on my board, because after I make this the way I want it, I can group it together and shrink the whole thing. For now, I'm going to take this blue line and I'm going to drag it out. There it is. Okay, now I have first line, indented line, second line, indented line, third line, and indented line. I decided to look and see if I want to do the word Lord in maybe a different font. So I'm going to go to this A, which is for text. So I'm going to select the word Lord, just like you would on a Word document or something, and look for the font that I want to use. I don't want it real fancy. I just want it to be a little bit different. Let's try Bradley Hand. I can just leave it selected and keep changing the font and not have to reselect it each time. Oh, I kind of like that. Here is the new Lord and here is the old. I kind of like that. It's kind of the same, just a little bit different. Here, and these were the recently used. So I believe it was noteworthy. Yes, it was. And select this Lord and make it noteworthy. Now, in the Bible, when it says Lord like this, all in capital letters, the O-R-D are usually smaller than the L. So I'm going to see if I can make those smaller. So over here, above the different fonts, is the point. It's 72 right now, so I know I don't want it to be like way low. Let's see what 48 looks like. And what my goal is to get it to be about the size of these letters, and I think that pretty much does it. So let's do the other words. You got to click right on one of those lines to get the green line, and that means you can work on these. So let's highlight the rest of that and take it down to 48. Same here. Now that I have shrunk the ORD in Lord, I'm wondering if I want to use a different font. So I'm going to look again. I'm going to double click on one of the lines of the word, and I'm hoping that it will not change the size of the font. Oh, that's kind of nice. There, can you see that? It's more of a script, but I feel like it's too small. Like I would need to increase the size of everything. So first I would have to start with the L and take it up to about, if I highlight the point number here, then I can type in what I want. Let's do 95. That's better. And these, let's do 65. All right, now these are about the same size now. Yeah, I really kind of want that bigger though. This is what can be very time consuming on these projects. I'm gonna go 100 and leave this, but I wanted the L to be bigger and really stand out. So here, instead of dealing with this whole word, we're going to copy this word just like you would with anything else, a Command C or Alt C, I believe it is on a PC. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to paste it with a Command V. Yes, and then we'll do it here. Paste it with a Command V. Now you'll see that it put more space in between the lines because that L is bigger. But if you go down to the bottom of this text style box, you'll see line spacing, and it has an up and down arrow. So we can make the lines smaller, and we could also bring the letters closer together or further apart, which would help us in our spacing on the board. I think I'm going to leave it like that. I like it. You'll see that there's red around these letters, and that is because they are already set to cut. The red lines indicate cut lines. Now some items you bring in, you need to set the cut lines. And I have a video coming out in a couple of weeks where I do another silhouette project and we do that in that video. So we're not going to worry about it here. So now we need to figure out our spacing. All right, I'm going to click off of the green and then I'm just going to click once. And over here it tells me that this is 8.350 inches. And down here, the width is 16.470 inches. So we're going to adjust that, and we will drag this corner in. And what I like to do is whatever my longest side is, that's the side I go with, because then hopefully the smaller side will fit in. If you buy sheets of vinyl to cut on, they are 12 inches by 12 inches. I'm going to make this 12 inches just so that we can stay on a 12-inch piece of vinyl. And it's actually going to be 11.81, which then brings my height to 5.99, so almost 6 inches. Still a little bit taller than what I wanted, but that's okay. So what I need to do is scoot this over so that it's all in my mat. These red lines all around the mat indicate your cutting lines. Whatever you want cut has to be within that red line. So we are just fine. We're within that red line with no problem. And since we've got a little on each side, I like to split the difference. All we have to do now is cut it out. So this is a cutting mat, and that comes with your Silhouette Cameo, but you can buy different ones for different purposes. You take the blue material off of it, and it has a sticky back. You can see that mine has little flecks of paper and stuff on it. That's fine. You don't want this to stick so hard that you can't get your letters off. I cut a 12-inch piece by 12-inch piece of black vinyl. Mine's all rolled up because it was a roll. Yours will not be like that. It will be a nice flat sheet if that's what you buy is sheets. You want to line it up with your mat, stick it down. Don't be afraid to pick it up and move it or whatever. So now I have my vinyl on my cutting mat. You can see a little arrow on top of my finger, and there's one down here. And that's the direction you want to feed it into the machine. Before we finish the process on the computer, I wanted to go ahead and load my paper. These are your blades. There's not one in here. But we don't need that one. We need this one. We have an automatic blade, and I'm lining the edge of my plastic sheet up with this gray, and then I'm just gonna push the button to have it go in. And these little spots here are gonna hold it in place for me. Now let's go back to the computer. Now what we need to do is prepare this for cutting. We don't need the text style box anymore. Instead, we need the setup page. So we're going to select what we know here that will go along with what we're going to be cutting. We know that we're going to use the Cameo 4 because that's what I have. I know that I'm going to use the 12 by 12 cutting mat. I will tell you that using the vinyl, you don't have to use a cutting mat. You could just slide your vinyl sheet in there. But because mine was so rolled up, I went ahead and put it on my cutting mat. The media size is 12 by 12, and that's really all I need to do here. Up here at the top, we are in the design format. We're going to go over and we're going to send it to the cutter. You see those bright red lines? That's nothing to worry about. We're going to go to line because we just want to cut the lines. Now, that looks much better. Here where it says heat transfer smooth, right here, that is not what we're using. We're going to bring down our little menu here. This is vinyl, so we're going to look for vinyl. You can see a lot of different things that you can cut on here. And this is a matte vinyl, and that's really what I like the most for signs. It is on auto cut, which means it sets the cutting standard. And then we're using tool number 1. So I clicked on 1. In the carriage, we have an auto blade. Now we're going to go down to this portion where again we see that it's vinyl, matte, auto cut, and auto blade. Now, sometimes these automatic settings do not work. Just want you to know that. They gave us an option to test them. When I push the test button, what will happen, this will count out the number of the blade depths, and then it will go over and on this very edge of the vinyl, cut a little shape. And then you take it out and see if the shape peels off. So let's see what happens. Can you see the little shape there? I pulled the whole shape off, but there's normally a little triangle in the middle and you can pull it off, or it doesn't matter, you can pull it all off. And this will not interfere with your pattern because the machine knows that it cut a shape there and it will not try to cut over it. So that means we are ready. So we're going to slide this back in again. We're going to push the send button down here at the bottom and it's going to cut. Before I turn this on, I want you to know that it is very loud, so you might not want to stay in the room with it. Kind of keep an eye on it as it's starting though, make sure it's feeding through properly, and then you can walk away. So now is the part that I think is fun, although it can get tedious at times. When you get your silhouette, it comes with this little tool. It looks kind of like a dental tool. It is called a weeding tool. So like when you weed the garden, we're gonna weed away the things that we don't want. Now, before you start weeding, you need to make a decision. And that decision is, do I want to keep the letters on here and pull off the background, because then I can just put the letters on my board? Or do I want to pull the letters out and use it as a stencil to paint on my board? So I am going to pull out all of the letters and get rid of them and leave the big black border. Because I'm going to be picking out smaller things, I have found it's much easier if you just use a straight pen. And so that's what I do. I'm going to kind of turn it here. I also usually have a piece of old vinyl. Sometimes I have scraps from where I cut things. Today I'm just using some of the tape that I tape the board off with, and I keep it close by because what's going to happen is these letters are sticky. So they're going to stick to your pen. And if you sit there and pull them off, then you have letters all over your fingers. So I just tap it to the tape and they stick there. Now when you do this, you need to be very careful because this A has a middle in it. You don't want to pull that off. You want to leave it on there so that when you put your paint on there, you have your complete letter. That is true with all of your letters. You want to be careful not to pull the whole letter off. I'm going to see if this will work. My letters are usually smaller than this. It's helpful that this has a hook point to it, and you can still put them on the tape. I've done some things that had some very small little areas. If they're straight, I'm going to use the straight pen. If they're curved, I'm going to use the hook. And like I said, this can be very relaxing if they come off easily. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes you start a project and you're like, why in the world did I do that? I don't think you can see this. I am having trouble with the middle of that E staying down. I am going to use this tool to hold the middle in while I use the pen to lift the E off of the middle. As you can see, it shifted. So all you have to do is go back and place it where it goes, and you can usually see a cut line in that white backing and just press it back on. When you do your first project, you might want to choose a word that is just really big. I will also tell you, if you use cursive letters, when you pull the first letter off, they just all pull off because they're all connected. These letters are not connected, so they have to be pulled off one by one. So now what we're going to do is take the vinyl off, but we're not going to just peel it because it would distort the lettering. So instead, we're going to take a piece of clear transfer tape, is what it's called, but I don't buy and use the transfer tape. I just buy clear contact paper and I cut it the size I need it, and then I put it on there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I need a piece that's big enough to cover this whole area. So I really don't need all of this black down here. I could cut right there. I'm just gonna take a ruler and my X-Acto knife, because this is a cutting mat, I can cut on it. We're gonna take this off and see this backing paper is the white that you see behind the letter. So now I need a piece that will fit on this. I could just go this way, and it's the same size, it's 12 inches, but I like to go this way so that I have extra to play with, and you'll understand that when I get it done. So I'm just gonna cut some of this apart. It does not have to be perfectly cut or anything like that. Then what you're gonna do is peel the back off of the contact paper. Then, because it is very sticky and we don't want it that sticky, or it will not release our paper for us. It will, but it might distort it. I always just take it and press it on my jeans or my skirt that I have on, and then you get little fuzzies on it. That makes it be able to release better. So now we're going to lay this over what we have made. And we're going to do that. All right. We are going to lift it off of our sticky paper. Before you start peeling it, make sure it's pressed on there really well. These little tools come with different things. I think this one came with some of the vinyl I bought, but you could use a credit card that you don't use anymore, a gift card. That way it's going to stick. So now let's try it. You want to kind of go at an angle instead of straight on, but as you can see, that just does not want to stick. There we go. Now we got it. We're going to keep pulling until we've got it off. All right, this we don't need anymore. This is going to be our stencil. This is the sticky side. We take our board, pull the tape off of it because I don't need that anymore. I'm going to stand up so I can really eye it from above. I'm going to lay it out so that I can see where the words are being placed. I want to make sure that I have my bottom straight, my lines of words are straight, and that I have the same distance from this letter to that side, to this letter to this side. So like this is a margin and this is a margin. So I'm going to measure. On this side, I have 3 1/4 inches. And on this side, I have almost 4 inches. So I need to bring it over. So I'm just gonna lift it up. You see, I'm not pushing the whole thing down yet. I'm just kind of laying it there so that I can measure. Top of the E here, it's almost 5 1/4. From the top of the E here, oh, yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go over this. I don't think I like this one as well as this one. This is better. This is the one that came with the Silhouette. Now I will take off my transfer paper and see how it kind of sticks. So I want to be real careful not to pull away any of my little center letters, but hopefully they're very well stuck onto the wood. When I was pulling this off, here where I had to patch this word, part of that vinyl tore off. So I'm just going to take a piece of vinyl and trim it down and fit it in there, because if I don't cover it up, when I go to stencil this, the paint will go in there and leave that on my board. Across that whole line, and it's all good. You don't want any white gaps if you've had to mend something. And now with our stencil in place, we need to paint the letters on our board. Even though I want to use black for my lettering, the best tip I can give you is always start with the paint that is the color of your board first. That way, if the paint bleeds under the letters, the bleed marks will be the color of the board. Then you come back with the layer of your black and go over that when it's dry. That way you get a nice crisp stencil line. What I use to stencil with are these. They come apart like this. I have found this paint in my paint selection. We'll see what we got here. I'm just putting it on my cardboard. I'm just going to pick some up here and show you. It pretty much matches my board. So I'm going to go ahead. Now, I don't want it heavy on here. I'm going to wipe most of it off so it looks fairly dry. And I'm going to sponge over this. And I'm not going to rub it. I'm going to pat it. If you rub it, you have more chance of going underneath the vinyl. I'm just going to make sure I got a good coat on all of that and keep going. And if you're like me and you get impatient, you can always turn on the blow dryer. I did 2 coats and I feel like it's dark enough. I'm gonna go ahead and start peeling this off. Sometimes this will peel your paint. What you can do is, again, use the blow dryer, but use it a little hotter. And then it pulls off better. This is still wanting to pull off, but that's okay. And there's our letters. Oh, they look sharp and nice. Now you'll see that the middle of the letters is still there, and that's because we're gonna have to weed those out. This gets kind of crazy looking sometimes. Just keep pulling, because there's nothing that you need to leave on there at this point. Everything needs to come off, so don't worry about that. Now we're going to weed out the stickers in the middle. Okay, there it is. I love it. Now I'm gonna add my little swag of fabric scraps, and I'll show you when it's all done. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you liked it, be sure and share it with your friends or give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment if you have other ideas or signs that you've made. And until the next time, may the Lord show you His favor and give you peace.